Hello, viewers. Welcome to the first episode of our show In Search of Lost River Saraswati. I am Kaushik Mazumdar, your host. We all know about the river Ganges, the most holy river to the Hindus. But have you heard about the river Saraswati? Yes, the river which was referred to in ancient scriptures with lots of respect. Some of today's historians like to question the very existence of River Saraswati. Yes, we will try to find the truth in this show. We take our questions to Dr. Utpal Bhanju. Dr. Bhanju is an oncologist by profession. He lives in Columbus, Ohio, a city in the USA. But his passion is the history of ancient India, its tradition and customs. He is an avid reader. Let me welcome Dr. Utpal Bhanju to the show.
Thank you, Kaushik. Welcome, friends and viewers. We are going to talk about Saraswati River, which was the most important river as described in Rig Veda. I think it is a good place to start. The very name of Saraswati immediately reminds us of Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and arts. Saraswati has moved from the land of the Vedas to our altars of worship. Now, let's see what Saraswati meant during Vedic times. As you all know, Vedas are the most ancient literature of canonical proportion dating back to very antiquity. Rig Veda was the first literary composition of the human mind, and it was composed in Vedic Sanskrit. I think you know, Vedic Sanskrit is more archaic and different from classical Sanskrit. Classical Sanskrit developed at a later time from the Vedic Sanskrit. The Vedic Sanskrit is the oldest of the Indo-European languages. There was no written language during Vedic times, and as there was no written language or script, the Vedas were passed on for generations by oral tradition, and surprisingly, without any deflection. Hence, these are known as Shruti. You know, Vedas were passed on from Guru to Shishya, or the disciple, and the disciple used to recite the slokas after gurus, and there was no deviation was allowed in any syllables, and that's how it is exactly recited in the same way as it used to be several thousand years ago. Ancient rishis or seers composed these works in their ashramas on the banks of the river Saraswati. This river inspired the rishis to compose such eloquent works, thus they relate this river to knowledge and learning. As speech or spoken language was also perfected at its banks, she is also known as Vak Devi. In post-Vedic literature, she is known as Brahmi, means consort of Brahma. So when the writing system developed later, the script in which Sanskrit was written is known as Brahmi Lipi. You know, in the Indus Valley civilization, we have a script which has not been deciphered, and it is presumed that this is a logosyllabic script. From the Indus script, it is presumed that Brahmi Lipi later developed, which were used in early classical India. Rig Veda is not only the scripture, it also describes the history, geography, astronomical positions at that time of prehistoric India in Vedic period. Saraswati River nurtured the Vedic people and culture like the mother of the civilization. The rishis describe Saraswati as mother nursing them like a mother nurses a child. Saraswati was the lifeline of the Vedic civilization and culture. In Rig Veda, the name of river Saraswati appears 72 times whereas the river Ganga or Ganges, as Kaushik mentioned, is the most holy river of Hinduism, had been only mentioned at most 3 times. So what Ganga is to present day Indian, so was the Saraswati to the Vedic Aryans. In mandalas 1 to 4 of Rig Veda, the Saraswati River is described in graphic details, being a perennial river full of great waters with impetuous flow and unbroken and fast, arising from the serpentine glaciers of the high mountains in the Himalayas, all the way to the sea, that is, the Arabian Sea near Saurashtra. It is described as Girivra a Samudrat. The Saraswati River received the highest praise among the rivers and was deified. She is described as Ambitame, Naditame, Devitame Saraswati. In English, the best of the mothers, the best of the rivers, the best of the goddesses. Geography of Rig Veda is described as Sapta Sindhava, the land of 7 rivers. There is now overall scholarly consensus with the land of the Vedic Aryans, with Sindhu or Indus on the west, its 5 tributaries, and the Saraswati on the east. In Rig Veda, the Vedic Saraswati is described as the mightiest of the rivers, 7-sistered, sprung from the threefold sources, which are Manas Sarovar area, Shivalik hills of the lower Himalayas, and the glaciers of the Garhwal mountains. She is also known as Saptothi Sindhu Mata, means mother of the 7 rivers, including the river Indus. Saraswati is described as flowing strongly and swiftly with voluminous waters, soaring waves, and loud roars, nursing the whole culture. There is a hymn in Rig Veda, well known as Nodi Stuti Shukta. This hymn is very important from historical perspective. In this Shukta, the 19 rivers of northwest India and Pakistan were invoked, and they were exactly listed in order from east to west. Let me recite the Sanskrit portion of the sloka. Imam me Gange Jamune Saraswati Shutudri Stomam Sachata Parushni Ashikniya Marudvride Bitastaya Rijikiye Srevaha E Shushomaya. Let me translate in English. O Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati, Shutudri, which is Sutlej now, Parushni, current name is Ravi, hear my praise. Listen my call, Asikni, present day Chenab, Marudvrida, which is Moruvardhan, Bitasta, which is Jhilam, Arijikia, and Shushoma, which is Shohan river. Imagine the geographic knowledge of these scholars composing these hymns. But based on our current knowledge of geography, all the rivers are present in northwest India and Pakistan. But where is Saraswati? There is no river of such importance seen between Jamuna and Sutlej. Jamuna is draining towards east and Sutlej towards west, but there is no important river in between. Instead, we find a seasonal, non-perennial, monsoon-fed stream which is known as Ghaggar, ending in the desert of Cholistan after crossing the international border in Pakistan, where its name is Hakra. In later Vedic literature, from Brahmanas onward, Saraswati is still mentioned, but not with the same vigor or importance. River Saraswati is also noted to have disappeared at a point in Cholistan desert of Pakistan, known as Vinashanam or Adarshanam. Vinashanam is a more popular name. This point is known as a holy place of pilgrimage, Tirtha, in Hinduism. In Mahabharata, Saraswati is mentioned in several parvas, such as Shallo Parva and Shanti Parva. Balaram. I think everyone knows who Balaram was. Sri Krishna's elder brother. He went on pilgrimage during the Kurukshetra war, and he started his journey from Vinashanam, going towards northeast and stopping at all the important places along the course of the river Saraswati. Mahabharata also gives a clear geographical account of Saraswati becoming a non-perennial, monsoon-fed river, vanishing and reappearing in the desert, surviving in the form of lakes, which were large bodies of waters, such as Brahmashar and Kaleshwar in Haryana, Pandushar and Ravishar in Rajasthan. Kurukshetra also had a lake. Kurukshetra was located between Saraswati in the north and Rishabhati, one of the important tributaries of Saraswati in the south. Saraswati is also mentioned in several Puranas, although Puranas are much later day literature, such as Brahmanda Puran and Skanda Puran, which is, by the by, is the longest of the Puranas. From Yajurveda and Atharva Veda and Aitiriya and Shatapatha Brahmana, Saraswati is equated with Vakdevi. Thus, Saraswati assumed more of a celestial position than a terrestrial one. According to traditional Hindu view, Saraswati disappeared and went underground. Saraswati became Antasalila, that's what we say. And it flows underground to meet Ganga and Jamuna at Prayagraj, which is Allahabad, known as Triveni Sangam. That means the meeting point of the three rivers, where Kumbh Mela is held. Kumbh Mela is held between the three places in Prayag, in Haridwar and in Nashik, and every 12 years is the Purna Kumbh and every 6 years is Ardha Kumbh, and these places take turn to host the festival. Thus, Saraswati survived in the collective memory of the Indians forever. In Rigvedic time, the land between Saraswati and Drishadvati was known as Brahmavarta. That means the land of Brahma, or the most blessed land. And the land drained by the 7 rivers between the Himalayas in the north and the Arabian Sea in the south was known as Aryavarta. That means the land of the Aryas. I will conclude my talk here. Thank you very much for listening. See you in the next episode.
Thank you, Dr. Vanjo. Thank you, viewers. Please join us for the next episode. In the next episode, we will discuss how the present-day scientific evidences will corroborate the scriptural descriptions what we have just heard in this episode. Thank you again, and we'll see you in our next episode. Bye. Have a nice day.